Hello, my dear friend and very special guest, Bill O'Heron. I'm going to pretend that I've just bumped into you at a cocktail party, and here's my prop, just for effect. I what I like about cocktail parties is you don't rehearse it, you just bump into someone and they say, "Well, hi, who are you? What are you doing?" Blah blah blah.
Love it. I love it. It's fantastic. So good to see you. I'm happy to be here. As my wife
Oh,
says, I'm in small talk. So this fits right
you and
with
me
my
both.
my approach to life, I think.
Yeah, so Bill, tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your story?
Thank you. So I'm 58. I'm from New Jersey. Who am I and what am I all about? I um I would have to say I've been asking why my whole life. So I'm a sales guy. I've had a license in I'm a therapeutic counselor. So I've had my counseling license for 17 years. I've been in the financial field for 30 plus years,
Hmm.
and I'd say from a very basic level, I have been studying relationships unconsciously for many years, and then, as I like to say, I ran into a buzzsaw at the age of 31 in the financial field. Something was happening inside of me, and I've been studying relationships consciously and actively for 27 years since. So I'm a
Hmm.
sales guy from New Jersey. I don't
Yeah.
let the details get in the way. I'm a
No,
story
but
guy.
all right. Well, let me just jump in there. So you're a sales guy. You got this whole financial wizardry over here, and then you've got your deep. Because I know I've had so many conversations with you, and you really get in there. You really love to dig in there and find out what a person is all about, first, and then relationships. So why are you like that? Why are you wired to care about people in that way?
It's funny, just as I feel into it, I almost tear up. I I love the human condition. Now, it's fucking hard, but I just feel like I think I was gifted with coming back this lifetime as white, middle class, and so the outside worlds come relatively easily to me, not without a lot of angst and pain, and but I just every person I meet, I want to share something with. I don't know why. I want to try to make their life for a moment slightly better, slightly
Hmm.
more tuned in. And it's not I'm not promoting myself. That's none of that. I just I'm here in my Atlanta office. I work for a little family office, and I run their capital markets. And I just want people to feel slightly better. I can't explain it.
Mm, mm. Well, that's a good place to start from, and because your book, which I want to talk about right now, is all about relationships. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about how that came
Sure.
about?
Yep, absolutely. And credit to you. I mean, a lot of the I had been working on for many, many moons. I'll come to it in a second. And then you and our paths crossed back in 2016, 2015, 2016
Hmm.
into early 2017. And you were really a catalyst to like, get on it, man, get on it.
Hmm.
So credit to you. I'm not here, you and I aren't promoting each other. We're just having a wonderful conversation. But once I started meditating back in March of 1996, and a lot of things unfolded there then. Got married, had 3 kids. I started really using myself and my marriage as the arena, as the template, as the laboratory for who the heck am I? What the heck am I doing? And why is the thing so difficult? Why is marriage so difficult? Why is parenting so difficult? Why are my parents driving me crazy still to
Mm.
this day? And so I decided to start writing all this stuff down. And finally, in 2020, self-published the book. And the book is about how to help people make a small change in their life. But
Hmm.
from right above that, The
Mm-hmm.
most important thing, this came out of the Harvard study, the Grant study. It's still going on. It started in 1941 or 42. It's a longitudinal study. The summary of that 80-year study so far is that the most important thing in people's lives is relationships. And I read that back in 2015, 2016. I already had all this data. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I've got to figure out how to put it all together. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a science kind of a rational approach to our powerfully unrational life. And I use my life as the laboratory. It's called Waking Up Marriage, but it's really about letting something happen in this relationship, any relationship, and then taking it back to your cave, as Jung says. Take it back, meditate, be in it, and then carry that information back. I have to say this. The word relationship, people don't dig into it. It comes from Latin. Relatus means to carry back. What does that mean? You and I are in a relationship right now. You trigger something in me, I trigger something in you. Joy, pain, sadness, longing, great, beautiful. So at first we're like, oh, I blame you. No, something got triggered. I go do therapy. I meditate, understand, oh, that's kicking in my insecurity. And then I carry that information back. Relatus. I carry my vulnerability back to you and I share it. The relationship then either deepens because you share your vulnerability and the relationship deepens, or it doesn't. But a relationship is a verb. It's happening every second, and we have to know ourselves in order to understand our relationships. I'm going to give you one more stat. This is crazy. Part of the Harvard study was a man in his 50s. It's healthier if he smokes cigarettes in his 50s versus him not having built relationships in his life. In other words, relationships are so important to his biophysical, biomagnetic, biospiritual. Those relationships are so important. If you're lonely, 55, you don't have good relationships, you'd be better off. It's worse than smoking. Big. That's a big data point. So that's why I wrote the book.
So basically, if you have a lot of great relationships in your life and you're 50 and you're a guy, you can take up smoking.
Pretty much.
Yes. What good news? Does it apply to women too?
Yes.
I got tons of relationships.
How crazy is that, though?
That's insane. But it makes sense, right? But aren't men and women different in that sense? Like, doesn't marriage ultimately make a guy happier and healthier? Is that true? Or I don't know.
1000%. That's exactly what the data is. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a formal marriage, right? It doesn't have to be on paper. It doesn't have to be this documented thing. It's two people, male, female, male, female, female. Doesn't matter.
A one-on-one intimate relationship, right? Emotional, everything, right? That person, they need that
because
there's that person.
Have to have somebody to share our vulnerability with, and it can identify it, give feedback, go deeper, challenge us, kick our asses, right? Male or female, doesn't matter. We have to have somebody who cares enough to kick. I have to care enough about you to go, you know what, Jack, you're wrong. I love you. You're wrong. You're right. You're wrong. You called me out. I called you out. We have a great relationship. I think we are incredibly honest with you. That's a real relationship.
Yeah.
That's healthy.
Yeah, no, it is. Now, so why is it called waking up marriage? What's to wake up?
So it wasn't the original. It wasn't the original call. It wasn't my call. And we'll get into the self-hybrid, the self-publishing, which was a tremendous process, a great process. But the guys that were helping me work on it at Atmosphere Press down in Austin, they kept saying, I wanted to call it the space in between, because we absorb our parents' lives. Biomagnetically, we absorb our parents' lives. And then we wake up in our 20s and early 30s going, why do I have all this unconscious crap? Holy cow, I can't believe I have all this stuff. It all happened by the time we were 10 years old. And they said, no, better to have something kind of specific. So it really should be waking up relationships, finding truth in your partnerships. We just use the word marriage. The people around me, whatever, my wife and a couple of friends, like, that's great. I just said, like, I was in the ninth inning, like, that's good. Happy with that name, but it wasn't my first choice. But to me, it didn't really matter. It's basically waking oneself up. How? Meditation and therapy. I'm sorry. I wish there was a magic pill, but you got to sit quietly. I'm sorry. I had this conversation. I've had it 1,000 times in the last 3 years. You got to sit quietly because you got to hear yourself. And then you got to match that with what's happening on the outside. So that's really what it's all about. I had, just quickly, a gentleman did the first bunch of edits on this back in end of 2019. He did 6,000 edits on however many, 250 words.
Mm.
And he emails me back. Great guy. He's written 3 books. He says, Bill, this is a love letter to meditation. Your book is a love letter to meditation. I'm like, wow, that's kind of sweet. Anyway.
Well, I'm processing because you're rapid fire. You know that. I love you, but
Sorry.
you're very rapid fire. And so I would just like to take a breath. And what I'd like to say is my interpretation. It's interesting. I saw this book as an awakening that two people can have. An awakening is a deeply personal experience, knowing oneself, and yet marriage is the perfect media for expressing and relating that awakening with another person, right? Now, for me, that's what this book was about because there's a lot of stuff in it, man. I mean, there's a lot of data. You do go deep. You do go deep, but you're
Yeah.
not half measures, Bill. You've never been half measures. You're all or nothing. I can imagine you being so quiet that you'd be like a statue, and then there's this person that's rapid fire, which is you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk to me about let's talk about the response that you've had. And let me just ask you this
Mm.
question. Is this a book for men, for women, for who's it for,
Mm.
would you say?
It's a great question. It's really directed at men because
Mm,
it's very the candor and the times where my wife's like, "You're really going to put that in there?" About myself, about the challenges of the feminine, of my wife challenging me when we think we know so much, right? We're out men, we're out in the world, killing the bison and, whatever, trying to make money, live in the business world. And then we come home to the hearth, which is an emotional world. And
mm,
I remember when I first started meditating yonks ago, I said, I want to teach men how to cry. And that was a big part of the foundation is I want to, and I'm going to tell you some of the response I got, which is poignant responses from not from a ton of people, just kind of an isolated few, but a very specific subset of people. My goal was, listen, whoever reads this, slow down, put it
mm,
down. I mean, I think I have it within the first few pages. Here's a very simple exercise. Close your eyes, count down 10 to 1 or whatever, and tune in. And you nailed it. I have to know me and my little boy in order to know my wife and her little girl inside of her. It all
mm-hmm,
starts with me. And so, what's the response been? There's been probably 4, 5, 6, 7 young men in their early to mid 30s who have one in his early 40s, slight acquaintances or just random people. So this book changed how I looked at my relationship, and it changed, I'm going to say it changed my life because I didn't realize how much my family from the past affects who I am
mm,
today. And
mm-hmm.
that is the crystallization of what I've been trying to say for 20 plus years is, yes, you can forget about your past, right? Classic Piscean era. Forget about your past. Your parents are who they are. Go into your inner child. Your inner
Yeah.
child has all the wisdom. That's
Right.
really where it is.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And talk to me about the kitchen table.
So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. That was the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We were 3 years in. We had a kid and a half, I think one on the way. And we're in the kitchen table. And I upbraided. My young daughter was slunched over and she was chewing with the mouth open. I said, Claudia, she was young. I'm like, sit up, And my
Mm-hmm.
wife turns to me and she's like, you're a fucking blah, blah, blah. She takes a plate. I stood up. She stood up. I backed away. She took a plate and did a Ryan
Whoa.
Nolan at my fucking head. Took a plate and
Wow.
threw it at. I duck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then inside I smiled because I'm like, oh my God, this is what I said. It's impossible for her to be that angry at me because she hasn't known me that long.
Mm, mm,
I'm
right.
like, inside, I'm like, that's generational anger.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad was, and so we went to the therapist like 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
And she realized her dad used to come to the table drunk when she was 8, not hit her or anything, just be mean,
Mm, mm,
submissive,
mm-hmm.
classic old school masculine. And it used to drive her crazy. So she was throwing the plate at dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything around us represents these old archetypes until we realize,
Right.
oh, that's the old
She
archetype.
was triggered. Right.
Trigger,
Big time
right? And
emotional
so,
trigger.
yeah, so I could blame you right now for triggering something in me. It'd be great. It'd be so easy. But when
Yeah.
you slow down, go, God, that's my 7-year-old who is just blah, 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 dropped like a hot rock, or the teacher didn't like me. All these
Mm-hmm.
old feelings are in there
Right.
every day.
Is it true to say though that your little boy was there who had exquisite manners maybe drummed into him as a child, right? So little
My dad,
boy, little
my dad had
girl,
non-negotiables, 100% non-negotiables at the table. You sit up,
right?
you if you got crumbs, you like that. Yes,
It's a,
100%. There
it's
was
a
it
serious
was
business.
there was
Elbows off
so
the
much.
table. Yeah.
You nailed it, Jack. There was so much going on in that moment that I said I could leave this moment behind, or I could use this as the beginning. And that was the beginning of the river, of the expedition. Lewis and Clark, they went upstream. Those
Mm,
mofos went upstream to Mississippi.
mm,
I felt like
mm-hmm,
I'm going upstream. I've got to find what the source is,
mm.
and I'm going to study it, and I'm going to study until I get it.
Is there a synthesis that comes about through this? Because obviously we don't want to be triggered all the bloody time, and we don't want always our little child out in public, right? So is there a therapeutic process that you
Mm.
offer in your book that gives solutions?
Yeah, it's a great, and you were always good at that. I would say I'm not as, I could be better at it, but I continually put, especially in the book or just in conversations or in my therapeutic practice, is what are you feeling right now? Like
Mm,
something gets triggered, stop. What are you feeling, and where in your body do you feel it?
mm-hmm,
And once you're able to take your attention from out to in, that to me is the beginning. There's probably different, a bunch of modalities through which to do that. But just to go, oh, I've got anger. Great. Where? I feel anger in my shoulders. Well, anger in your shoulders, which is more responsibility and frustration, is different than sadness anger, which
mm,
is different from desire anger, which is more in the belly. So you can kind of calibrate it, but that's not important. What's important is where in the body, what's the experience, and where in the body. And you find out where in the body and go be with it. Go be
what does
with
that
that
mean?
feeling.
What does that mean?
If you're at work, hard to be with it. Walk outside, take a breath,
Mm-hmm,
understand the
mm-hmm,
emotion. Don't worry about don't doesn't matter the why. Don't worry about the why you're feeling your why because your boss just called you a jerk or whatever. Yes, that's
mm-hmm,
obvious, but it's hitting at a deep sensation inside.
mm-hmm,
Go into the body, stay with it so it can, and breathe it through or stretch it through, whatever you need to do just to get through the day. Now go home and
mm,
do the work. What's the work? Sit
mm,
quietly, reflect, go inside. When was this is the question I ask pretty much every first
mm.
counseling session. How you doing, Mr. Smith? Great. What are you feeling right now? Sad. Perfect. When was the first time you ever felt that type of sadness?
Mm.
No, fifth grade. My grandfather died. Boom.
Boom, you're right in, right?
We're in. Start from there. Right there. It's not like I wonder if the body knows. The
You're so
body knows.
enthusiastic. I love it. You're so full of it. I love it. You're in your
I
flow.
thank you.
Yeah, you care.
Thank you. Mm.
Yeah, you really care. That is it. That means a lot to people because they feel seen, right? And
Yeah,
then having those emotions and then processing, does it get easier? Do the triggers happen less, or are we just more cognizant of the cause? And we don't, for example, we don't get so angry at our partner. We realize that there's no charge. Is there less of a charge? Sorry, I'm getting there. Is there less of a charge to the trigger? Is where I'm getting. Yeah.
absolutely. But here's the thing. Here's the challenge. Here's what happens. People do
Mm,
yoga, start meditation, they start doing therapy, they feel worse. Why? Because they've let it all in.
right.
It's like take your enemies from fifth grade, whatever, and let them in the door. You're like, well, that's why I've kept them out, Bill. So this isn't working. I'm like, let them in, hang out, and your chart's going to go like this. You're going to feel like shit. You're going to feel like a loser, and it's going to go like this. And then one of these days, you're going to hit a near-term bottom,
Mm,
and you're going to do this. Now watch. Now you're like, God, I'm starting to get it. I understand. My wife's triggering me.
hmm.
Great. Guess what? There's going to be another dip, and it's going to be lower and harder. Why? Because
Why?
consciousness, awareness keeps expanding,
Hmm.
right? You can go to past lives. You can peel this onion way back. Not on this conversation, but just be prepared that this is, I got to say this. First therapy session I ever did in London, King's Road. 1996, some stately, over some stilted therapist. She asked me, she's like, I'm starting to tear up. I'm 31. I hadn't cried in 10 years. She's like, Bill, you sure you want to do this? I'm like, do what? I'm like, you sure you want to keep asking these questions? Why you feel this way, all this stuff? And I write in the book, and I'm like, she's like, because if you do, things are going to get really bumpy. It's going to be really tough. And I said to her, they might get bad, but right now, I can't take this. My heart was like, there was something constricting in me. And boy, did it get worse. Boy, did it get heavy. Boy, did it get hard. Boy, was it the greatest thing. Because here's the math equation. You want joy in your life? You have to go to the sadness. I'm sorry. That's the 3D
Why
plane.
is that? Why is that?
Because this plane of existence is built on opposites. Black, white, feminine, female, masculine, feminine. It's built on opposites. So if you want the most of something, you typically have to understand the opposite. It's opposite. Laws of thermodynamics. Eventually that balances out. So I realized for me, and I think this is a human condition, you want great joy, you've got to uncover the great things that are preventing that great joy, which is typically some kind of insecurity, some kind of longing, some kind of sadness. The challenge for me was that some of this stuff was older. It was older than this life because I've lived a charmed life. Like there shouldn't be this well of regret. What am I regretting?
Right.
And
so is that your family baggage? Is it like, are we talking grandparents, great grandparents, lineage?
Generational.
Right? Epigenetics, right? Are we talking epigenetics?
Big part of the book.
Yeah.
Big part of the book.
Well, that's fascinating.
I started meditating 2 weeks later, 27 years ago. My grandfather, who'd been dead for 7 years, came back to me in 3 sets of dreams. He's like, teach me yoga. Okay. This is a guy from New Jersey who was a doctor. So that paradigm, so then it opened up this whole window. Okay, whoa. What do we have? What is really going on, right? So again, this is, for some people, it's way too esoteric, but you asked a great question. Do we have to understand self and pain to get joy? You can have modest amounts of joy. You can have great joy. I say to people, if you're feeling good and happy and engaged in your life, you don't need therapy. Carry on. But if you want more, and you want to finish this life, Jack, finish this life at its fullest, you have to go inside and go, why am I here? What am I feeling? And what's left to bring out into this plane? What's left? And you can tell the older people in their 70s and 80s who are still curious. I just got off the phone with an 82-year-old client, still curious, still asking questions. That to me is like curiosity. It's the heart. It's desiring. There's more. There's more. Not for everybody, though.
Right. Now, and also I would say, if for nothing else, do it for your kids, right? So that you don't pass this baggage down, these unconscious ways of doing things. Because am I right in thinking that 95% of a lot of our thinking is actually unconscious, right?
You nailed it. You freaking nailed it. So, you're hitting you're good. You're really good. You and Oprah tied for this. Well, here's what I'll tell you. Couples counseling is my favorite work to do.
Yeah.
And every single session, I have said those words, what you just said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yeah, you guys are in here. Chances are by the time you get to me, a therapist, you're cooked. The relationship's done. Maybe there's some hope. Don't do it for yourselves. Do it for your kids. Do the work on self for your grandkids who you're never going to meet. Why? Because you change the biomagnetic stream, and the stuff that you're putting in the space of your kids is the stuff that they're going to put in the space of their kids. So do it for posterity. Get selfless with your work. That to me is the message. Don't do it like work on self so that the community benefits.
Right. Well, what if you don't have kids or won't ever have kids, and maybe you're not in a relationship? How can I take that information in your book and also apply it to a life that doesn't fit some of those, but tick those boxes?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the normal paradigms, absolutely. Well, we go back to what you and I are talking about. It's really understanding self. Every relationship starts with Bill. The world's a freaking illusion. If I'm never in one more relationship and all my friends and all my family disappear tomorrow, I have to be in my relationship with me, with my inner 14-year-old who was suicidal, which I didn't really kind of realize, and kind of suicidal, and my inner 8-year-old, and my inner 22-year-old, and my inner 42-year-old, 41-year-old who was struggling, who was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to make it on this plane. Like, I'm in a relationship with them. That to me is the most important thing. And every other relationship on the outer world in the 3D plane is a result of, or is a benefit, or is kind of added value, but it's not where the life is lived, because we're going to leave this plane. And this is the greatest saying ever. Robert Monroe, all life is shared moments. It's a series of shared moments. So you and I are having a shared moment right here. That's what's going to last. So if you have a shared moment with a garbage man because you live alone, you have a shared moment with a woman, at this grocery store. It's a shared moment right there. That matters. That matters. And if you just have big shared moments with self and my inner child, that matters. For me, it has to matter. If it doesn't, I'll figure that out on the other side. But for me today, what matters is, am I bringing in every moment as much as I can, frustration, anger, grumpy dad, all that stuff, or hopefully, some joy and some light. And can I work on that? And can I be better at
it? Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Now, is there going to be any kind of online course that perhaps somebody who couldn't maybe see you one-on-one could take that would, walk them through some of this in terms of applying your book?
Yes. When? Don't know, but absolutely, because it's really constructible. It's doable, right? It's once you make that commitment, I always tell people, so no, I don't have it online yet, but I tell people, start with whatever emotion you're in right now. Like I was saying 10 minutes ago, start with that emotion, start writing down what you're feeling. And then you got to get quiet or do your therapy, do that work. And now go back to that moment, go back to that person, go back to that experience. What have you picked up? What have you picked up? What have you picked up? And that's really what all the work is all about, is continuing to move and using the emotions. The intelligence of the universe is not thought, it's emotions. And for some people, emotions are just really, really difficult. Anyway, so no, there's not a course right now, but hopefully there will be.
Well, we're going to post some information underneath this video so everybody can reach you that way. I'll also post a link to your book. I just want to ask a quick question before we wrap up. You took the self-publishing course. Can you just tell me kind of in 5 minutes, if you don't mind, the pros and cons?
Well, as an English major, I thought I'll go the traditional route. Tried that fairly aggressively in the sense of reaching out and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, get in line. We'll see it about a year and a half. So, and then had done enough homework, understanding the self-publishing world and where it is now is phenomenal. And then ran into these guys down in Austin. You were super helpful. I mean, you were powerful. You added a lot of value, realizing, hey, you did it. You self-published, I think, right? No, you didn't. Yeah.
No, but just to let people know, I came on for a little part of the time that Bill was writing this book as an editor and a sounding board.
Yeah.
Right. And we did try, I did recommend that you try the traditional publishing route.
Yeah.
And then when you told me you were taking this other route, I was like, okay, but you know what? You made it work. You really made it work.
It's fantastic. And this is classic hybrid. So there's different kinds. There's the pure self-publishing. This was hybrid where, let me summarize. Fantastic experience. Would do it a million times over. Fantastic experience. Was it hard? Yes. Did I question myself? Yes. But these guys were good. They understand what they've done, a bunch of them. They liked the topic. It was different what they typically have been doing. They were very responsive, reasonably priced. And I'm going to share a little bit of wisdom I got from somebody else in a second, but a fantastic experience. Would do it again. And it forced me to actually really, really do the work. They said to me, yeah, this looks good. Now you got to go edit the hell out of this and then resend it. And I edited the hell out of it, much more than I even thought. And then they edited the heck out of it. So I felt very comfortable at the end. Now, here's the thing. Ask me the question. So they said to me, they've done probably they'd probably done 60 books by that time, 2.5 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. It was whatever. They'd done a bunch of books. And they said, Bill, you sold more. I sold like 1,300 copies out of the gate. There's only one reason why. I met a young gentleman, phenomenal marketing. He's probably 30 now, and he's an Amazon guru. He understands the mechanics behind the scenes, what Amazon books, what their intelligence is, what their technology is. Says, Bill, you could spend $50,000 marketing your book before it comes out. He's like, rubbish. He said the day it launches, pre-sales, that pre-sale will be the birthmark of
That's
that
right.
book. And he said 95% of those sales are friends and family.
Mm.
You know what I did starting? You could see the texts I've sent. In this crappy little phone, I probably have 3,000 old buddies, whatever, not old buddies, just people I've been in, and I just blew up the world. I was texting my best friends like, bro, just buy the book. Just buy the book. Like, what do I like? I'm like, oh, I totally forgot, Bill, no problem. So it was all friends and family. All friends and family. That is the home run ball because listen,
So
the guys like nobody knows you.
pre-sales on Amazon,
pre-sales.
right?
All pre-sales. It's pre-sales. If whoever's listening, if they're thinking about it, just start gathering your list of every human
Get your
being
list.
you've ever interacted
Get your
with.
people, get your tribe, create
I'm an Excel guy.
a local
I've got
community.
so many emails.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where you went to college, where you went to high school, where you went to elementary school.
Shamelessly pound on the door and say, buy my damn book.
Buy my damn book.
And people will say
takes.
people will ignore you and
Absolutely,
never contact you ever again, and that's it, right? What's the cost of your book? What is the cost?
I think it started out at like $12 or $13, and it's probably for free. It's probably $1 now if you can buy it used. But it was great,
Yeah.
and I felt it was very rewarding. I'm so glad I did it. It took a long time, and again, I'm going to come back. Third time I've said it. You were very, very helpful, more than you know, I think.
Well, thank you, and we're going to wrap it up there. But I would like to invite you to come back with this chat because I feel like there is another interview just on marketing. I really feel like there is something here that needs to be explained.
Big time. Happy to share.
Okay.
And the reason why I think I had some value is I do this for my day job.
Yes.
I raise money. And
okay.
That's all I do.
We're talking part 2. All right.
Yep.
I know where you live. I'm going to come and get you, and we're doing another interview.
Tell your chickens I say hi, and hopefully they can stay away from the
I have chickens, by the way. Okay. Thank you very much.